Hello everybody and welcome to Unit 3 of my pre-algebra walkthrough. In the previous unit we learned how to solve two-step equations such as this thing, and we also learned how to solve multi-step equations like this. And really when we were learning this, I basically was skipping over some important topic regarding this, and that was basically I assumed that you guys understood what negative numbers were. So in this unit, Unit 3, we're going to take a step back and delve into the mysterious world of negative numbers. Now, could either be the bane of your existence or something that people love to do. And, I'm one of those people who are pretty much impartial on this. I can go so far, but at the same time, I don't think it's just a chore to do negative numbers and work with them. Some people really just dislike negative numbers. Other people really love them. And we'll see after this tutorial if you guys are which one of those people you are after this tutorial. And this is basically for the people who don't understand the negative number concepts. If you guys do understand negative numbers, and this tutorial basically is assuming that you understand basic math, but I don't know how far basic math would, so to speak, go. You could even go so far as to know negative numbers, or you could be so unaware about negative numbers that it could kill you. So basically, in an effort for me to have content that everyone can understand and enjoy, I'm going to take a step back, and in Unit 3 I'm going to focus on negative numbers before we move on to pre-algebra. If you understand negative numbers, which I'm very positive that some people may understand negative numbers already, move on to Unit 4, because that's when we start using our two-step equations and everything, and we really just pull everything together. So, negative numbers. Basically, I'm going to explain to you the concept of numbers. And let's say we have these, numbers are basically, you guys all know what numbers are. They're basically, we basically use these to represent values. For example, 1 would be this. 2 would have, it'd be like having sticks, for example. Let's say this is a stick. We have 1 stick. If there are these many sticks, we had to think of a name for each of these values. So we chose this one would be called 1. This one would be called 2. And as you can probably imagine, this one was called 3, and so on. This one was called 4. If we had this many, we'd call it 5. And in a similar manner, and so forth, so on and so forth, we got up to, like, big numbers like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. They all start off the concept of naming values. And let's say, this is going to be very important actually, let's not do that. Let's say I own a bank, and what's this bank's name? It's Phoenixman Unlimited. I don't know. And let's see, it's got to be red, white, and blue. So red, okay, and blue. This is going to be colored in blue. I don't really care. And it's not official yet because we don't have the word bank written over it. Oh yeah, now we own a bank. So in this bank, there are values. There's money actually, and let's say we own, this is money, and let's say we have 30 of these, so 30 times these. And basically what we're saying right now is when we, okay, I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry if I'm confusing you guys right now. I'm trying to go as basic as possible. So now when we have numbers like this, 1, 2, 3, and 4, these are what you call positive numbers. And what they're basically saying, a basic way of looking at this is saying that you own. Positive could be looked at as you own. You own this money. You own $30. $30 is how much money you can claim for. If I have a job and let's say I earn $30 at the end of each hour, which is a pretty nice job, I own $30 at the end of that hour. So I have a positive $30. And basically, positive numbers are what we work with a lot. We work with a lot of positive numbers. Some like go so far as when we're working with geometry, which is one of the tutorials that you can learn way later after you learn this. There's no such thing as negative numbers in geometry because you can only have positive values. And positive values are things that you own, things that actually exist. So how can, like in the geometry tutorial, how can we have a square that doesn't have an existed amount of of length or whatever? So positive numbers are basically numbers that you own. That's one way of looking at it actually. And let's say that we earn $30 at the end of each day. So at the end of day one, at the end of hour one, I own $30. But let's say I previously I went to the store and I bought $60 worth a $60 pair of shoes. Why not? Because I needed to look good, right, for my job. So at the time, you know, this is before day one even began. At the time, I had zero. I had zero money. I didn't have any money. And I needed to pay $60 worth of money. So what happens when I don't have enough money, yet when I don't have any money at all, yet I still want to pay for this money? I can't just say, all right, I'm just going to stay at zero. I mean, it doesn't work like that. So what happens is we basically are subtracting 60. We're taking $60 off of my money, but I don't have any money. So this is where negative numbers come in. Negative numbers are basically our way of saying stuff that you owe. So positive numbers, positive equals stuff that you own, negative equals stuff that you owe. See how a little letter can make such a big difference. So, oh wait, no, okay. Let's say a number line. If you guys don't know what a number line is, it's basically the theory that numbers continue on forever. It's no big deal. This is my 0. I have no money, and over here, basically a number line is basically a line of numbers, and right here is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where all these numbers would go. 6 and 7. This is considered. This place right here is considered the positive side of the number line, because there's you know, these are all positive numbers. And on the other side, which I'm gonna do this in yellow as well, 1, okay, so to speak, the negative numbers are numbers that you owe. So, you know, when you own money, you build it up, so to speak. So when you own money, let's say you own $30. You started from $0, then you went from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the order of positive numbers. And negative numbers, the order is, well, it's kind of hard to explain. The order, it starts on -1 right here, and it basically goes backwards. So we count backwards, so to speak. Because if we're going to read this number from left, if we're going to read this number line from left to right, we start on -7. Wait, that makes no sense. Why don't we just start on -1? Well, this forms from the theory that the less you owe, the better, right? If we only owe $1 as opposed to $7, we technically are richer than that guy who owns $7, because it's very easy to pay off a $1 debt as opposed to a $7 debt, because, you know, it's just how the way of the world works. So this is basically the concept of negative numbers. Negative numbers are basically numbers that you'll owe. So let's say, for example, I have $30, and I want to, and you know, I have $30 at the end of the day, and I'm coming home from, like, you know, work, from that 1 hour of work, and actually this is how my day went from the start. Let's start from the start. Let's start from the start. Yeah. I started off going from my office, from my home, and I walked to the store and bought a $60 pair of shoes. So I had $0 to start off with when I left the home, but I took off $60. So basically now I'm in debt, and I'm going to represent, debt is going to be represented by blue. So when I have blue, I'm in debt. When I have yellow, that means I'm in positive, so to speak. So now if I had $0 and I subtracted $60 off of it, I'm now in debt. So how much am I in debt? Well, let's think about this. I had $0 and I'm automatically going to take off $60. So logically, I'd have a negative value of $60, and this is the sign that we use for negative numbers. Basically what we're saying is, you know, 60 negative 60, we use a minus sign. And let's say now that I'm just going to draw this number line real quickly, though. So we have our big old 0, and we have debt. Oh wait, no, I might want to make the 0. I might want to make this green, and we have our debt. I'm going to count in. The thing about number lines is you can count in different, you know, in different things. We can count in by 30s. I'm going to count by 30s actually. We can count by 30s, but that means each tick means another 30. and positive wise, we're going to have 30 right here, 60, 90, and so forth. So when I had $0, I was exactly broke. This is green. This is green. So I'm just gonna make a big ol' green splurge. Okay, this is 0. This is the most important. So anyways, when I started off, I had $0, but then I took away $60 because I need to buy a pair of shoes. So I took away $0 from $60, which netted me going back in debt to -60. So this is where I was after that first thing. So I'm just gonna put this. This is number 1 after the first scenario. And then after that, I worked. I worked for 30 hours. And I worked for 30 hours, worked for 1 hour, and my boss said, all right, your shift is 1 hour only, and I'll give you $30 if you work that much. And I said, okay, so I'm going to work for 1 hour, that's fine. I worked for an hour, and I got $30. How much money did I own then? Well, we added 30, we're going to have to add $30 to how much my net worth. If I hadn't bought this pair of shoes, we'd just be adding $0 and 30, we get like $30. Okay, now I earn $30. But before we can do that, we first got to take into the fact that I owe $60 to that store. And I mean, I owe $60, and technically this is the bank because I used my credit card, and you know, so I owe $60 to the bank. The bank covered it temporarily, but I still owe $60 to the bank. So I'm right here, and I want to add 30 because that's how much money I earned. Well, why we can't just say that now we have $30 because that's not true. We owe $60, so we're right here, and we basically move right on the number line 30. So we're moving right 30, which nets us -30. So now we owe -$30. If that makes any sense, just think about this. Think about this logically, actually. The number line moves like if you're going in this direction, you're going positive. So this is going to be whoa. I didn't know you could have enough. Whoa, I did that. You learn something new every day, I guess. Huh. Whoa, no, I lost everything. Whoa. Anyways, so number line, blah blah blah. We went from 30, -30, -30, and -60, and we owe. So we had -60 at the beginning of the day, and then we want to add 30 to it. So basically, we were in debt $60, so we want to alleviate that debt by 30. So basically, the debt is 60, and we're going to take off 30 off that debt. Taking off is subtraction. So basically, the easiest way is going 60 minus 30, 30. But thinking about this logically, I mean, this will get kind of confusing. But if you look at this original equation, we're still in debt, right? We don't magically jump, 30 and go straight up to the positive 30. We're still in debt. So now, the thing is, we're only in debt $30 minus 30. And then from here, let's say that I wanted to, I wanted to go and get some bread for me to eat for dinner, and the bread costed $15. And I don't have that money, so I just put it on my credit card. Now I owe an additional $15 to the bank. So basically, since we're adding debt, we're not taking away from debt, we're adding debt, what we're going to want to do now is do 30 plus 15. And this is obviously going to still remain as negative. We're going to go over that a little bit later. But what happens now is we still owe debt. Yes, that's true. But now we just owe even more of a debt. $45 as opposed to the $30 the $60 at the beginning of the day. We bought a pair of shoes for $60. Then, we added $30. We still owed $30 to the bank. But instead of trying to make offer restitution and earn more money, all we did was just add more debt to it so I could eat something. So at the end of the day, I now owe $45 to the bank. And this is basically the concept of negative numbers that aren't really numbers that go after the zero, because when you first learn numbers, you started on 0, 1, 2, 3, because we deal with positive numbers, but there's also a thing as negative numbers going on in the background. -4, -5, and so to speak. This is a very long tutorial, guys. I apologize for that. But yeah, just check out my next tutorial where we're going to start looking at negative numbers a little bit more.